So we are just going to jump right into it. All right, team, what's up? We are officially in fall, my favorite season, and it's great for outdoor activities and boost noises. So, in the last video, I introduced you to my new WRX project car, gave you a general idea of what I wanted to do, and then asked you for your input. And with that being said, thanks to everybody that watched and participated. I was pretty surprised that most suggested Weekend Warrior. I am thankful though, because building a full rally car can be expensive. And at the end of this video, I'm sharing a solution to one of your answers. So, let's talk about the direction we are heading and how I like to plan a new project. The first thing to do with a new project is to set a clear goal. Now with this car, it's going to be a weekend rally car, which means on the weekends, I should be able to travel pretty far comfortably, but be able to go off-road or on a trail and kick up some dirt if I feel the itch. And what I like to do is start with my dream build, and then I can deduct the bare essentials so I know exactly what I need just to get going. Now, what does my dream weekend rally car look like? Come and see. For rally, a stroked, high-revving 2-liter, fully built internals, an anti-lag system, a little over 400 horsepower, but with 450 plus foot-pounds of torque, a standalone engine management system, sequential 6-speed gearbox, a fully armored undercarriage and bumpers, beefy suspension, race brakes, auxiliary lights, hydraulic handbrake, flock dash, racing seats, a toolkit, and last but definitely not least, a full roll cage. For the Weekend Warrior, a roof rack, cup holders, sound deadening, and a fully functional HVAC system. So that's the overview of my weekend rally build. And of course there are more details, but I'm pretty sure you get the gist. And I do have to merge two very different functions, so that should make this project pretty interesting. And as of now, the limiting factor will be the budget, but I will try my best to make a fun driving, nice to look at vehicle when it's all done. And even if you had unlimited funds, if you don't have a clear vision of what you want, you can end up with a rally car with a $15,000 paint job that you don't want to scratch. In my opinion, you can't set a budget until you know what your function is and what mods, if any, are needed. With my dream build parts and modifications laid out, I now have to narrow down the list to the essential parts I need to achieve my goal. If I'm going to drive off-road with the throttle wide open, I want more safety gear. When it comes to the chassis, that means installing a roll cage. In order to have fun, I have to be able to control the car. A good wheel set, reliable brakes, and a tough suspension are a must in my book. I do want armor for the undercarriage, bumper bars, and auxiliary lights, but for the sake of the budget, I will put those on a wish list for now. Now there are some rally modifications that are little to no financial costs that just require work. Removing creature comforts such as carpets, extra seats, trim, and trunk items is a start. Then taking out the cruise control and removing the sound system may not be a bad idea for a rally car as well. I'll have to look into DIY dash flocking and weatherproofing for the floor panels. Ideally, you want the chassis to be bare as possible, and if you do add stuff, it should be rally functional. And here's where it gets interesting. I have to make a choice between rally and weekend function. The weekend function demands some level of comfort. Storage for gear like travel bags, snowboards, and bikes is a requirement as well. And it may be tough with a roll cage, but passenger space in the rear would be nice. What I don't have is an engine. And you guys said you want me to run a Subaru EJ engine, and I'm okay with that. Now the exact engine, transmission, and power goal have not been determined yet, and I'm on the lookout for a block to build or a running donor. And in the meantime, there is a lot of other work that can be done. The method of starting with a general goal and then working down to smaller goals and tasks is called top-down design. I like to use this approach when I'm starting something from scratch and have a goal that is clearly defined. And that's because no matter where you are in the project, you know exactly what you're aiming for, which helps with decision making and morale. Now, something that's kind of the opposite of top-down is called bottom-up. You start with small tasks and goals, and as you build up, the goal or goals can shift. And there is a use for that too. I'm more likely to use this approach on an existing system or situation. For example, If I were to be given a vehicle and told to make it my own, I would start with subtle changes and then build on those changes that I liked. Eventually, I would get to a point where I could define an end goal. The possibility of backtracking and or restarting is higher with this approach. Now, the benefit of top-down for project cars is that you're less likely to perform mods that you don't want later, which results in saving money, time, and energy. The benefit of bottom-up is that you're more likely to try new things, which is also known as broadening your horizons. So, it's really up to you. The next move is to create spreadsheets for parts and tools. From there, I can create an estimated budget. Once those three are created, I can start mapping out my workflow plans. So the cool thing about the timing of this project is that the SEMA Show is very soon, and it will be my first time attending. If you didn't know, SEMA stands for Specialty Equipment Market Association. The SEMA Show is where manufacturers from all around the world showcase and display their products that can be a part of the transportation industry. There is a significant number of manufacturers that focus on motorsports. So my goal there is to film and show the team, that's you, what goodies are or will be available on the market, and ask the manufacturer some technical questions relating to their products and or their product genre. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I might find something or things for this project at the show. So I have not made a full part or tool list yet. I'm going to be patient and see what new toys are coming out. And when I create the list, I will share with you what I come up with so we can move on with the project. So I asked if y'all like pancakes or French toast in the last video, and everybody said pancakes. And these are banana Nutella pancakes, and we are going to make them. The ingredients are simple. Just use your normal pancake ingredients, a hazelnut spread, a very ripe banana, and some salted butter for the cooking surface. I like these pancakes because they are delicious and they don't require syrup, so there's no sticky mess to clean up afterwards. And FYI, the serving size is 6 to 7 4-inch pancakes. The first thing you're going to do is mix your normal pancake ingredients. I use a whisker or a mixer depending on how many people are coming to the pancake party. And then once your batter reaches the consistency you want, stir the hazelnut spread with a tablespoon in the container first, and then add a healthy tablespoon of the spread into the batter. It will thin out your mix a little bit, but it does not reduce the fluffiness, at least not from my experience. Then you're going to take your overripe banana and mash/mix it into the batter. And you're going to stir it until it gets nice and smooth. From that point, we are going to coat the hot cooking surface with the salted butter. This gives it flavor and texture. I like my pancakes with a little thin crust on the outside and nice and soft in the middle. Then you just pour your batter and cook as normal. Now these are naturally browner because of the hazelnut spread, and at 325 degrees Fahrenheit, it takes about 90 seconds per side, or you can just look out for the bubbles. Then you just flip them, plate them, and enjoy. And you can substitute strawberries or blueberries, but I would suggest cutting or mashing them before mixing them into the batter. So I hope y'all enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Until the next time, stay tuned and thanks for watching.